All right, guys, we should be live, and we're going to check Instagram. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, everywhere else. All right, now we're live on Instagram, and we got a good one. Senator Kennedy on Adam Carolla's show, and here we go.
John Kennedy is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Good to see you, Senator.
Adam, good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I see you on TV all the time with your witticisms and your analogies. Very funny and effective. You know, I think you can paint a picture with a short analogy or a funny saying much more effectively.
Senator Kennedy is phenomenal. He's hilarious. He cracks me up. He's probably the funniest, most entertaining senator out there. He's from Louisiana, and he's got a lot of seasoning. So it's fun to watch. Really fun to watch him, and he's funny in here. Let's check it out.
Then a long run-on sentence. Has that always been your style?
Yes, and my business, in large part, Adam, it's a lot like yours. It's communication. And the American people are busy. They're busy getting up every day and going to work and obeying the law and paying their taxes. They don't have time to sit around all day listening to politicians.
Good morning, guys. What's up, Benjamin? Aquarium, Random. What up, boys?
Honk on like a goose. So when I have a chance to, don't have getting up every day and going to work and obeying the law and paying their taxes. They don't have time to sit around all day listening to politicians honk on like a goose. So when I have a chance to communicate to them and make my points, I've got 4 or 5 minutes, and I want it to be memorable, and I want it to be genuine, and I want it to be plain, and I want it to be candid. And sometimes that gets me in trouble, but God gave me the right to remain silent, but not the ability.
The shutdown seems like something everyone is talking about. I know the Republicans seem like they would like to stop spending so much money, especially on frivolous things, and especially on frivolous things that take place off of the shores of this country, which I wholeheartedly agree with. I'm from California, so we spend billions on a train that goes nowhere, and then we...
Bro, I can't wait. I would love to watch or to see Donald Trump wear the crown that he got from Korea, bro. I would love to watch
scrap it. And
he will drive people crazy.
Weirdly sort of immune to it because the numbers are so astronomical now that you almost can't digest them. And so you end up sort of becoming immune to this. But just in general, I feel like the Republicans are the party of trying to save some money, and that money is taxpayer money.
Well, we are. And this shutdown is really very simple. Now, the Democrats have tried to muddy the water to make it look deep, but here's what happened. Tuesday, 2 weeks ago, our country just rocked along, minding its own business. The budget expired. Our budget expired that day at midnight, but we've been talking to the Democrats about working on a new budget. And I thought we were making progress. And then all of a sudden, Senator Schumer came to us and said, here's the deal. Unless you give us $1.5 trillion to spend as we tell you, we're going to vote to shut down the government. And, our heads snapped back. My mother didn't raise a fool, and if she did, it was one of my brothers. There's no way I was going to vote for that. There's no way President Trump was going to support that. There's no way my Republican colleagues were going to vote for that. And so we just said, well, do what you got to do, because we're not giving you $1.5 trillion. We're trying to reduce the size of the government. And that's really what's going on, Adam. We're not asking for anything. We're not asking for a single solitary thing except keep government open so we can.
Well, we know they want to, we know the basics. They want to give free healthcare to illegals and they want to extend Obamacare subsidies for people that make more than enough money. And they also want these crazy USAID things put back in, because that's how these guys get their money, bro. The Democrats and Republicans, I'd say. I'm sure there are Republicans that get paid from them too. That's how they get their money. That's how they get paid.
Can negotiate a budget. And that's what's going on.
And
That's what, I mean, it's a multiple vehicle pileup, but it's not our fault. It's Senator Schumer and his puppeteer, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah. So do you think that's what's going on? I mean, Schumer's hanging on for dear life, and it's sort of the super progressive
Hell yeah, state line. That's coming to America, baby.
side of the aisle that is, you know, it's kind of, it's weird because I never thought of it this way, but I'm picturing Democrats in general, like the Democrats I know, as let's just say they're in a large Viking ship and they're all just paddling. They have an oar in their hand and they're just rowing in a large Viking ship. And that's what most of them are doing. But there's a handful of people, and they're in charge of the rudder. And they're going, we're not going the direction you want us to go. And the majority are just going, we're just trying to make land. We're just rowing. We're just hardworking folks. And they're going, no, we're steering toward climate change and the trans community and all the weird stuff that nobody wants. And the majority of you rowing don't want, but we're in control of the rudder. And I feel that's what happened with Biden. Biden got sold to us like some sort of...
I like what he's saying with this, but it feels like there's more than just a few with their hands on the rudder. I don't know. It really feels like there's more, because if there was just a few, then the others could at least call them out. You don't see anyone on the Democrat Party except for John Fetterman calling them out. It's like, dude, if we're sitting here rowing, some of us got to look back and yell at them and be like, dude, what are you doing with the rudder? You know?
Middle of the road, you know, slow and steady Uncle Joe and all that. But and that's what people voted for, but that's not who was in charge of the rudder. That's not who was steering the ship.
I think you're absolutely right. That's a good analogy. The loon wing, the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, it's not every Democrat, but it's a pretty big part of them. Maybe a third of the party, 40%, but they're in control. And their leader is Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. Now, she's helped along by Senator Bernie Sanders, for example, but they're in control. They're about to elect a socialist mayor of New York.
Well, Trump yesterday called him a communist a couple of times. He said, no, he's worse than a socialist. He's a communist. And I watched a video yesterday that I didn't watch on live with you guys, but I watched this video after the live of Mamdani literally just lying about what he was said about the police, about the IDF and how they're involved with the police and stuff like that. And he's just backpedaling. And then he's already claiming who he's going to allow to run the police in the city of New York. And dude, it's just out of control, man. I have a feeling if he gets elected, he's going to bring on a lot of Islamic leaders to run different parts of that city.
And that's who Senator Schumer is taking orders from, because he's up for re-election in a couple of years in New York, and he wants the loon wing of his party to love him. And that's why he's trying to ingratiate himself to them and to the Congresswoman with a...
Ingratiating himself. That's a new word for me. I'm going to look it up.
A shutdown. And you're right about President Biden. I think most people who voted for President Biden thought they were getting the second coming of Bill Clinton, who by modern standards was a moderate Democrat. Instead, they got the second cousin of Bernie Sanders.
Ingratiating, intended to gain approval or favor. Sycophantic.
Or Ocasio-Cortez. and that's who's in control of the party, and they're running things.
Yeah, and what they got was an auto pen and a bunch of people in charge who they didn't vote for. And so,
But
yeah.
I was just going to say, this wing of the party, these people are crazy as bedbugs. They hate.
These people are crazy as bed bugs. First time I've ever heard that.
They hate George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson and Dr. Zeus and Mr. Potato Head. They think they're all racist. They think kids can change genders at recess, and we're supposed to honor that. I mean, they're just crazy, but they are in control.
Right. And that's kind of an argument I have with people sometimes where they go, you know, what about the Klan or the Proud Boys? I go, they're not in control of the Republican Party.
Correct.
They bring up the Klan every 10 minutes. I've
Correct.
never.
And the Klan was actually created by the leaders of the Democratic Party. And by the way, I knew, okay, so the Democrat, if you guys don't know, Democrat Party was against getting rid of slavery. They were against abolishing slavery. And the crazy thing I learned is they did one of the longest filibusters against the Civil Rights Act.
Seen a Klansman. I'm in Southern California, so they don't have a lot of rallies in this neck of the woods, but they're not in charge of anything. The loony side fringe is not the fringe. It's the majority in terms of policy. They are in control. They are dictating policy. And it's nutty and it's dangerous. And then you kind of get back to, what do they want? It seems to me like they want chaos, because it doesn't seem that any of their requests are clear or have an end game.
Well, yes, they want chaos, but out of the chaos, here is what they really want. They think they are smarter and more virtuous than the American people. They think the American people are stupid.
Yep.
And so they want the American people to send all of their money and all of their freedom to the moon wing of the Democratic Party in Washington. And they will make decisions for the rest of us, because we're not smart enough and we're not virtuous enough to do the right thing. They think that they can spend your money better than you can. It's the most elitist view, arrogant view I can possibly imagine, but that's what they believe. That's what President Biden's people believed. Deep down, I think that's what President Obama believes, and that's what we're dealing with. A bunch of people that have more zeal than wisdom. They're often wrong, but they're never in doubt. They have all the answers.
What up, you cats?
Just ask.
And Jason?
It's an elitism meets a narcissism. Like, there's a kind of, you have to be narcissistic to want that kind of dominion over people. Regular folk who aren't elitists and narcissists, when you say, do you want to be in charge of a group of people? They go, no, that's uncomfortable. It's not for me to say. It's not for me to dictate to them what to do or how to go about it. That's the way I felt all during COVID. I'm not here to tell people how to live or what to do. The ones who dove in with both feet were the ones who jumped at the idea of controlling other people's lives. That's why I find it so rich that guys like Gavin Newsom would talk to us and lecture us about socialism and totalitarianism and control and dominion and stuff. We just got done with COVID. He did everything to control everybody in his state.
Yeah.
And
exactly. And Adam Carolla knows, like I do, because we live in California, which is Gavin Newsom's, the state that he is the governor of. And so, dude, I thank you guys for subscribing, man. Thank you. See the number going up. Appreciate you guys.
so did Gretchen Whitmer, and so did whoever's running, whoever's up Chicago, New York. They all did it. So why are you lecturing us about control over your citizens when we just did an experiment called COVID? It was 10 minutes ago, and you guys all failed.
Well, that's a good analysis. but you have to understand. I think you do, but many people don't see it from the inside like I do, and like to some extent you do. These people, how can I put this? These people really think they're the smartest people on the planet.
Yes.
And they also think that they're righteous.
Yes.
They think anybody who disagrees with them is not just wrong, they're in sin. They're racist, and they're sexist, and they're misogynistic, and they're Nazis, and they're bigots. And I could go down the list. That's why I say they're often wrong, but they're never in doubt.
I think Barack Obama, and even more so, maybe Michelle Obama, became the sort of poster children for that, like super elite. He speaks like we're hanging on every utterance that comes out of our mouth. He talks so deliberately and so slow, as if we're all kneeling at the hem of the man who's come down from the mountain, who's carrying the tablets with the wisdom. You know, he doesn't say anything. She doesn't say anything either, but they're both poster children for this era of sort of super elite. And yes, they have much more education than you do, and you couldn't possibly understand, but they're going to save you from yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
And it is the
Jason.
most arrogant approach you can have as really a human being. And I didn't.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say I didn't see as much of it. I felt like the Obamas ushered that in. You know, Bill Clinton didn't have that, and Jimmy Carter. Like, you could say what you want about Jimmy Carter, but he didn't have that elite listen to me because you're too dumb to make your own decisions vibe. He didn't talk down to everybody. He wasn't that, and neither was Clinton, and neither were the Bushes, and and Reagan wasn't that way, and we sort of sailed all the way through, and then we got to Obama, and this started, and it continued. I think Kamala Harris tried to pick it up, but she wasn't capable of pulling it off.
Well, personally, President Biden wouldn't like that, but he wasn't in control.
Right.
The people around him were in control, and the people around him were basically former aides to President Obama. I was often asked during President Biden's term by my people back home in Louisiana, who's really the president? Because they would listen to President Biden on TV, and he would talk like he was from outer space. And they would say, he can't possibly be making the decisions. Who's making the decisions, Kennedy? And I would tell them, the real president is whoever has control of that teleprompter. And I think the people that have the control of
Benjamin's talking about when Senator Kennedy was talking about AOC. He said the instructions on the back of the shampoo bottle was put there to help people like AOC.
that teleprompter, in addition to President Biden's family. But on a day-to-day basis were the 5 or 6 top aides to President Biden, and they were all former Obama people.
Where are we at with the Comey indictment and, you know, a lot of what they would call lawfare, which is convenient because these guys engaged in what I believe is a crime, and then they figured as long as we're in charge, we'll always be safe. And then the guy they tried to get put away got back in charge. His name is Donald Trump. And now he's going back to right a wrong, which they call lawfare, but it's not. It's basically they broke the law and thought they were going to get away with it. And so now there's all these characters, and it's, you know, a lot of the people that signed the 51 intelligence.
I got to read this from the chat. Beautiful Bill says that his favorite quote from Senator Kennedy is, you may not be, or he says he may not, when he talks about someone else, it goes, he may not be the dumbest person in the world, but he better hope the dumbest person doesn't die. That's a good one. I heard him say it the other day. And then Random says, one of his favorite quotes from Senator Kennedy is, corruption in the government is dug in deeper than an Alabama tick. I love that,
Experts
bro.
that signed the document that said Hunter Biden's laptop had all the characteristics of, Russian disinformation or whatever it is. All those people. And then there's also probably room for Obama on that list. I think it'll all come out sort of like COVID all came out, sort of like, Russian, the whole Russia, Hillary Clinton, Steele dossier, like it only goes one direction.
Bro,
it's only going to go one direction for Fauci. It's never going to turn out. He's never going to be Saint Fauci. He was on a candle. It's all going to be bad. Lab, did it come from a wet market? Did it come from a lab? I know how all this is going to end. All of it is going to end the opposite of what you were saying. Not you, but they were saying all through it. Stolen election, spying on Trump. It's all going to go one direction. But the question is how many and how long, and what's your take on it?
Well, I remember when it started. I think at the instruction of the Biden White House, Attorney General Merrick Garland decided to, for the first time in this country's history, to prosecute a former president of the United States who also was the chief opponent of Attorney General Garland's boss, President Biden. That had never happened in the history of our country. It's not supposed to happen in America. That's the sort of thing that happens in countries whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. That doesn't happen in America. To add sugar on top, they got the New York Attorney General and a district attorney in Georgia to try to put the President of the United States in jail under state law. And the American people saw through this. And it did more to help Trump than it did to hurt him. But what it also did is unleash spirits that can't be controlled. I mean, once you start this stuff, it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle.
It is.
What I think
and what they got was an auto pen and a bunch of people in charge who they didn't vote. It was 10 minutes ago, and you guys all failed. Pretty evident.
Sustained? Will it be thrown out? Will he be convicted? I don't know. That'll be up to our courts. But there will be others, in my opinion.
Yeah, because
I like what Get Real says in the chat. Get Real says the best way to get on your feet is to get off your ass.
Seems pretty
Straight
evident that they had an agenda. And you can talk about the law, and you can talk about statutes, and you can talk about letter of the law. But if you just sort of take the 10,000-foot view of the whole thing, you had an institution that had a bunch of people at the top that were clearly invested in Trump not being the president. They just were. And you always carve out the rank and file and the good guys and the cop on the beat and the guys out in the field doing the real work. Yes, it's not them.
Get Real also says in the chat, he says, life's hard, but it gets harder when you're stupid. I would also add to that, when you're stupid and lazy.
But they're not necessary for this. It's the guys at the top. And the guys at the top had a very vested interest in him not becoming the president. Now, there's a lot of reasons, and part of it is just kind of a status quo. We don't want the wild card coming in here shaking things up. We'll take what we know, and by the way, you go along and you get along. So they have a certain amount of power. For instance, Hunter Biden's laptop comes around. They're aware of it. They're in control of it. They understand it, but they also understand that they have a certain amount of control over the election. And they can do things at the most extreme, arrest President Trump and put him in prison. That would be a way to stop him from ever getting in control again. Or little things like we can shape the election. We'll just take this laptop, which could be hurt, which we're definitely going to shave a few points off of our guys' votes, and we'll just steer it in a certain way that makes it look like it's something different than what it is, and we'll control the outcome of the election in that way for as much as we can control it. That part of it all seems abundantly clear. There's a lot of Americans that don't want to admit it, and they don't want to think that their side did it, but there's no other way to process what happened.
Here's what I think happened.
We got Surya or Suri or whatever, Suryansh or whatever in the chat, talking shit on Charlie Kirk. Just stupid, just so dumb. Do better than talking about a guy that got assassinated, man. Please grow up.
From an inside perspective, President Biden is the president.
Super lame.
During the campaign,
you got something. You got something to say. You want attention? Call me up. We'll put you on live. You can be a caller and see what you have to say.
Was able to hide in his basement because of the COVID virus. Once he became president, almost immediately, people could see that he had neurodegenerative disease. He was old. He couldn't finish a sentence without taking a nap. He had to have a teleprompter for everything. And so the people controlling President Biden said, oh, my gosh, he could get beat for re-election. So they say, well, we think Trump's going to run against him, so let's put Trump in jail. And even if we don't put him in jail, we'll hurt him enough that he can't get elected and President Biden can be reelected. Well, once again.
Well, let's cut to we got to queue it up right here.
With the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
They underestimated the American people.
Ready to go, bro.
People said, "Wait a minute, this isn't fair. You didn't just get you got President Trump's. You didn't get his name out of the yellow pages. You decide you want to prosecute him. It's a political prosecution, and it backfired on him."
Yep.
And then President Biden had to leave the race. He didn't do it voluntarily. He had to. And Vice President Harris was even worse. And that's why we are where we are. And once again, I'll come back to my original.
Not only was she worse, but the Democrats had all the wrong things to say, even to their own voters. Their own voters were not excited about the policies they were talking. They didn't even talk about many policies. Like I said, with Kamala Harris, the only thing any of us remember is what the policy that she ripped off of Donald Trump, which was no tax on tips.
Point. Never underestimate the American people. They may not read Aristotle every day because they're too busy earning a living, but they are plenty smart and they will figure it out, and they figured this out.
They did.
Well, I'll add to that, which is, and it reminded me, we have a clip of Kamala Harris talking about no one was more qualified to run for president than her. That I don't know if you saw it, but you'll probably get some entertainment out of it. I'll let my guys in the booth find it. But I also think that they were working under the auspices of a media and a landscape that was about 5 to 8 years old. They knew that the LA Times and the New York Times and 60 Minutes, and they had all the legacy media in their hip pocket.
I agree with what he's saying right now, because they thought they had it in the bag. They thought it was a done deal. They're going to win the election because they had the legacy media and all the social media on their side. And they forgot to stay up with the times. They forgot about podcasting and all that stuff.
Right. And so they're working under that. But what they didn't realize was the new landscape for media, the podcasts and all the alternative stuff
Yep.
and all the voices
Yep.
that weren't around. And so they were sort of working under an old premise, which is we have everybody, and you can put this down for a second. I'll finish this, or we'll figure it out. But they thought we have everybody in our back pocket. We have all the legacy media, so we can
Yep.
say whatever we want, and no one will be the wiser.
Yep.
But that was before.
Yep.
Now people are the wiser.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Now we are the wiser. Now we have lots of people able to speak up and have their voices heard. In the past, you weren't able to hear everyone's voice because they literally got demoted or deplatformed. So now you got people able to actually say what they want because we have freedom of speech and it's not just one-sided. And people actually get to learn, different sides. They get to learn truth.
The world's changed. People don't just get their news from the legacy media. They get their news from social media. They get their news from podcasts. Adam, I don't have time. I wish I did to listen to very many podcasts because I'm going from meeting to meeting and vote to vote. But my wife, for example, and I don't think she's atypical. She is addicted to podcasts. It is extraordinary how many Americans get their news from podcasts. And many people in professional politicians, they still don't get it today.
Yeah.
The legacy media is not. They're the legacy media, but they're not the media that's really in control.
Yeah.
I can see
They're
the
not.
day when the major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, they're going to be as dead as Jimmy Hoffa. They're going to be as dead as fried chicken. Nobody's going to listen to them.
They
Let's hear him again,
They
bro.
don't get it today.
Yeah.
The leg
I love this. Listen to what he says right here.
podcasts. And many people in professional politicians, they still don't get it today.
Yeah.
The legacy media is not. They're the legacy media, but they're not the media that's really in control.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
I can see the day when the major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, they're going to be as dead as Jimmy Hoffa. They're going to be as dead as fried chicken. Nobody's going to listen to them.
They did. They were sort of.
Yes.
It was funny because they said, it's tantamount to them going, we need to get an endorsement from Oprah. And once we get Oprah and Beyonce to endorse us, then we're going to win. Yes,
Yeah.
that may have been true years ago, not anymore. So they were still running under a legacy media, trot Oprah out, trot Beyonce out mindset, and they should have been running under a new media podcast mindset. I'll show you this clip of Kara Swisher, I think.
He's absolutely right. They thought if they get Oprah and they bring on like female rappers shaking their butt on stage, that they're going to win the election. And they spent millions of dollars doing that. It was crazy to watch. There's so many clips I could play it if you want.
Sort of clumsily talking to Kamala and Kamala explaining how overqualified she was.
That is a decent resume, but go ahead.
Well, some people have actually said I was the most qualified candidate ever to run for president.
I like the some people say. Very nice resume, but go ahead. That is a decent resume, but go ahead.
Well, some people have actually said I was the most qualified candidate ever to run for president.
Guys, please, for the love of God, can anyone explain to me why why anyone would think that she's the most qualified person to run for president? Why? Because she wanted sex changes for male prisoners so they can go into the female prisons?
I like the some people say. Very nice, but go ahead.
I'm just speaking fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm curious your reaction to that.
Well, I know the vice president. We served in the United States Senate together. We were on the Judiciary Committee together. She was very scripted. I think she's a lovely person.
Very scripted. That's a great description. She is very scripted. That's why whenever she went and talked, we knew you're not going to learn learn anything about her. Like there was nothing to gain from listening to Kamala Harris.
And she's entitled to her opinion. But I have seen the polling before she got in the race, and the poll showed that most Americans looked at the vice president and thought to themselves, when her IQ gets to 75, she ought to sell. Now, that's what the polling showed. I pointed that out at the time in the legacy media.
Just Be Real in the chat says something very important. Never underestimate useful idiots.
Beat up on me like I stole Christmas, but that's what the polling showed. And I don't think she expected to be running for president, but I also don't think they expected President Biden to have a major league goat rodeo meltdown in front of the American people in his first and only debate. And so it was thrust upon her. And that the choice and the reason I think Trump won, people looked at Trump and Harris and they said, here's my choice. Trump represents hope. Because I know something about him. I know what things were like in his first term. Trump represents hope. Harris represents more hurt. She'll be just like President Biden. And that's why she got beaten. That's why President Trump won. That's my opinion.
Well, also,
that's an interesting way of putting it. Trump represents hope, and Kamala Harris represents more hurt, more of the Joe Biden administration. And yeah, I mean that's pretty spot on. A lot of Kamala Harris and the rest of the Democratic Party like to blame, or they constantly blame their loss on misogyny. They literally call their own voters misogynists and racist for not voting for her. It's crazy.
You know, most qualified to be president, being DA of San Francisco.
Guys, thank you for subscribing. I'm watching the number go up. You see it live on the screen right here, and it's awesome to see. Thank you for supporting me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Or holding some position where you're in the pockets of, donors and contributors and stuff. I don't know if I like those kind of qualifications. I would take this guy was a farmer, this guy was a veteran or a Navy SEAL, this guy ran his own business. In my world, welder who ran his own welding business, I like those qualifications better than working in the city council for Los Angeles. So,
well, to be a successful political leader,
Get real, bro. Thank you.
You do have to be smart, but it's more than that. You have to be mature. You have to be governed by morality, not appetite and ambition.
Yeah.
You have to have good judgment. Yep. You've got to exercise power intelligently. You've got to know which bridge to burn and which bridge to cross. And you can serve in public life all you want to, but if you don't have those skills, then you're not going to be a good president or a good governor or a good mayor. You're just not. And you also have to have the ability to communicate.
And you could try to, what he's saying is spot on. And you could not be that way and try to fake it. But the American people over time will see through the fake, and they will see through it because, well, I mean, if you speak, you guys remember Kamala Harris didn't speak much. Biden never spoke until the debate where he just got exposed. Kamala Harris didn't speak nearly as much as Donald Trump. And but when they do speak, they get exposed.
And Vice President Harris she just couldn't communicate. She could Nobody ever. They did. It was like she was speaking in Sanskrit. Nobody knew what she was talking about. Trump, on the other hand, you may like him, you may dislike him, but you know exactly where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And I think most people, whether they like him or dislike him, voted for him or didn't, they respect the transparency. And he's pretty much done what he said he would do.
Well, I'm out here in California, so we have Gavin Newsom out here, who I despise, but it's only because he's a sociopath and he's very destructive.
It's funny, in the chat, Dead Man just mentioned Gavin Newsom, and Adam just said it too.
But I don't know. Is he the leader in the clubhouse for the Democratic nominee?
I think it's wide open, Adam. I think you'll see a lot of people run. Newsom, Pritzker. You might see Vice President Harris run again. The governor of Kentucky, the governor of Pennsylvania, Rahm Emanuel. And the experts will tell us who's going to win and who's going to lose. And the experts will be wrong. And I think the Democrat that has the best chance of winning is the one that goes to Bill Clinton, for example, and says, how do I get people to stop laughing at my Democratic Party?
This is funny in the chat, bro. I can't believe you guys. So, what's up, Hans? Good to see you, buddy. But DS says, at least Newsom is speaking out against authoritarian takeover. Well, if you remember COVID, that just happened 10 minutes ago. He was literally the authoritarian in our state. I live in Southern California. I had it happen to me, just like Adam Carolla that you're listening to and everyone else in California.
How do I start talking about the things that moms and dads really worry about when they lie down to sleep at night and can't? And when moms and dads lie down to sleep at night and can't, they're not lying there worried about transgenderism. They're not worried about that. They're worried about how to.
Chris in the chat was talking about the senator on the right. That's Senator Kennedy, buddy. He's my favorite senator. He's from Louisiana, and he's got a lot of seasoning. Spicy and entertaining as hell to watch.
Pay their light bill and their kids' education. They're worried about inflation. They're worried about the enemies that we can see throughout the world that hate America, that want to kill us and drink our blood out of a boot. The Democrats won't win again, in my opinion, until they start talking to real people about real problems.
Yeah, well, let's hope they don't. Last question, the shutdown. Predictions, what's coming up? When's the next meeting?
I think it will last. I think right now, knowing where negotiations or the lack thereof stand, this will probably be the longest shutdown in the history of ever. I think a lot of Americans don't really care one way or the other. I think it will last at least until November the 1st.
Really?
But yeah, I think it's going to be a long one because what Schumer is asking for is unreasonable.
Away from mine.
We're not going to give him $1.5 trillion. At least I'm not. And I don't think he can afford to back down because then he looks like a weak weenie. And so we're going to sit here for a while. And President Trump is just going to keep running the country.
How does it end?
I think it ends when Senator Schumer goes to 6 or 8 of his Democratic Senate colleagues and says, guys, I need a favor, vote to open up government. I can't support you. In fact, I've got to criticize you and I've got to vote no because I've got to look tough. But help bail me out because I don't know how to get government back open. But what he's got to worry about, Adam, is he's got to worry about that looking like a mutiny. So, but that's how I think it will get out of it.
Great to talk to you. I'm a fan.
Same here, man. Thanks, Adam. Right back at you. You're a rock star, man. I appreciate you having me.
I hope we can do it again soon.
Let's do it.
A lot of different religions throughout America.
A tough person. I'm not tough.
Barack Obama,
Life is tough.
BA, Columbia
I'm merely trying to
University,
acquaint you
JD.
with those facts.
You know, back in the 60s, Lyndon Johnson announced a war on poverty. Am I wrong? But there are more poor people. I mean, in other words,
Today than there were then, yes.
Yeah, there are more poor people.
Yes.
I mean, this was a hell of a war. We lost it, apparently, because for the last 30 years, we've been dumping money into these poverty programs.
Oh, absolutely.
Where's the money go?
Oh, it supports a whole industry of people who run those programs.
You hear that? Where does that money go?
Talk about those programs.
It supports a whole industry of people who run those programs. Dude, listen to this again.
Facts.
Guys, if you don't know, this is Thomas Sowell, okay?
You know, back in the 60s, Lyndon Johnson announced a war on poverty. Am I wrong? But there are more poor people. I mean, in other words,
Today than there were then, yes.
Yeah, there are more poor people.
Yes.
I mean, this was a hell of a war. We lost it, apparently, because for the last 30 years, we've been dumping money into these poverty programs.
Oh, absolutely.
Where's the money go?
Oh, it supports a whole industry of people who run those programs, who talk about those programs, research those programs, bureaucrats, and so on.
Doesn't help poor people.
No. The tragedy, you see, is that the anointed really want to make symbolic statements. And running these programs makes those symbolic statements. They don't really care if in the wake of affirmative action, for example, companies start locating away from minority communities so they don't even get involved in legal action. They don't care about that.
You hear what he just said? Companies move away from places where they're... Let me actually...
They've made their statements, those symbolic statements. They don't really care if in the wake of affirmative action, for example, companies start locating away from minority communities so they don't even get involved in legal.
Companies start moving away from those minority communities so they don't get those lawsuits. So as soon as they start banging on those companies, the companies move away. It's a crazy, and then those jobs are gone. So the minorities and those communities don't have those companies that they can go work
legal
for.
Action. They don't care about that. They've made their statement on the side of the angels, and that's what's important.
Have you ever debated Jesse Jackson?
No, I haven't.
Is that because, would you like to, or would he not want to do that?
I have no idea.
You'd be willing to, I assume.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
You think that's too much showbiz?
It is. You know, there are people who go and do this, and I'm doing less and less of it. And I tell them the story of an African boxing champion who fought an Irishman in St. Patrick's Day in Dublin. And he lost his title on what the sports writers called a questionable decision.
Yes.
And so you have to know what forum you're talking about.
Right.
I saw Shelby Steele on with him, and I said, you know, if Jesse Jackson and Shelby Steele each had to present a 2-hour lecture to an audience with an average IQ of 120, Shelby would wipe him out. But if they had 5 seconds each on Donahue, it would be Jesse Jackson all the way.
Right.
So everything depends upon the forum.
Is Jesse Jackson good for African Americans or not?
He's
not.
Good for himself.
Good for himself.
And that's true of most ethnic leaders in most groups, in most countries, in most periods of history.
Did you guys hear that? Listen to this again.
Most ethnic leaders in most groups, in most countries.
Is Jesse Jackson good for African Americans or not?
He's
not.
Good for himself.
Good for himself.
And that's true of most ethnic leaders in most.
Jesse Jackson is good for himself. It's true for most ethnic leaders in most countries.
Groups in most countries, in most periods of history. That what will serve his interest is to keep people paranoid, dependent upon him, dependent upon government. What will serve their interest is typically just the opposite.
You get what he's saying? W. Kenneth, exactly, like BLM. And what he's saying is these people that are fighting for minority rights and all this kind of stuff, they are always trying to go after, like, have the government get involved and have some kind of a policy that will magically fix the situation. And in fact, it's on the individuals. It's on actual people themselves becoming responsible for themselves, rather than trying to put the responsibility on the government or on policies or on anybody else other than the person themselves.
That's pretty interesting.
To keep people paranoid in most periods of history. That
good for African Americans or not?
He's
not.
Good for himself.
Good for himself.
And that's true of most ethnic leaders in most groups, in most countries, in most periods of history. That what will serve his interest is to keep people paranoid, dependent upon him, dependent upon government. What will serve their interest is typically just the opposite.
That's pretty interesting. So you're saying that the leaders, whatever group, leader, wants the people to be poor and dependent on them as opposed to dependent on themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And you see this in the greatest cynicism in the academic world, where in many places, black organizations on campus have a say on who gets admitted. And they have turned down blacks with excellent credentials, both as students and as faculty members. For that very reason.
Who are the mascots of the anointed? You talk about the mascots of the anointed.
They're people whom they choose to back and whose rights are supposed to override other people's rights. The homeless are a classic example. I'm appalled when I see people out there in the street giving money to the home. I mean, able-bodied men. I think one of the classic pictures to me was in San Francisco when there was this able-bodied white man out in the street begging, and there's this black lady coming along there, very modestly dressed, like she didn't have, but she's stopping to open her purse to give him some money, you know. And I thought, good heavens, have we really come to this? And we've been brainwashed by the anointed into thinking this is what we ought to do.
What do you say to guys who bum money?
Stopping to open her purse, begging, and there's this black lady coming along there, very modestly dressed, like she didn't have, but she's stopping to open her purse to give him some money, you know. And I thought, good heavens, have we really come to this? And we've been brainwashed by the anointed into thinking this is what we ought to do.
What do you say to guys who bum money off of you?
Not all of it can be repeated on the air, but the fact is they don't get any money.
They don't.
And people who complain now about all these people begging in the street, there's a simple answer. Don't give them money, and they won't be in the street.
When you wrote this,
it's a very simple answer, and this guy's done his research. That's he speaks from actually, literally being a social philosopher, socio-political philosopher. The dude literally knows his shit, and he's spot on. It's exact. We saw that clip. It's the same reason why at the national parks they tell you not to feed the animals, and because animals, they get accustomed to being fed by people, and they forget or don't learn, or they give up helping themselves and taking care of themselves.
What were you trying to accomplish with the book, and did you do it? Were you nailing liberals for 30 years of social policy? What were you trying to say?
I was trying to reveal the thinking behind that, the kinds of assumptions, the kind of world that exists inside their mind, and therefore why those assumptions are so dangerous in the long run. It's not just the policies mentioned in that
They
book.
think they're better than everybody else.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. And that's what makes them dangerous. Even all the policies that are mentioned there, 20 years from now, those policies may not be the policies we're concerned about. But that mindset will still be there. And what makes them tremendously dangerous is that facts that contradict what they believe are simply ignored or evaded.
Where does the press fall into this?
I Choose Live, what's up?
As the anointed group. Are they part of the anointed?
Oh, absolutely. They're a major part of it, because one of the reasons that people don't get many of the facts that go against what's believed is that the press doesn't choose to publicize those facts.
Give me an example of something the press might not cover or cover well.
Oh, a few years ago, there was a story about prenatal care among blacks, that black women get less prenatal care than white women. Infant mortality rate is higher among blacks. They immediately assume that one causes the other. Now, one of the things I like to do is go back to the original source and find out what it said. I went back. On the very same page where it said that, the figures showed Mexican Americans get even less prenatal care than blacks, and they have a lower infant mortality rate than whites. So prenatal care and infant mortality rate have nothing to do with each other. If you break it down further, black women who have only a high school education, but who are married, their children have lower infant mortality rates than white women who have a college education, who are unwed mothers. So it's not race, it's not income, it's not education, it's lifestyle. When you live a certain way, there are consequences to that. The media doesn't want to accept that. Because if you say people's lifestyles have a lot to do with the outcome, then there's no room for the anointed.
Wow, dude. He's just a national treasure, this guy.
Corvair many years ago.
Problems?
As safe as the rest of them.
Are you saying there are no solutions to our problems as Americans?
There are no solutions to anybody's problems. There are trade-offs. You know, safety is a classic example. Every year, so many hundreds of thousands of people are vaccinated against measles, smallpox, those kinds of things. Now, this saves several hundred lives, it's estimated. It also causes brain damage to about 30 kids a year. Now, there are no solutions in that. There are just trade-offs.
What about crime? Take crime as an issue. Can we solve the crime issue or fundamentally solve it so it's reduced?
Well, then that's a trade-off. You don't solve it. There will always be crime. There always has been. But you want to keep it down to some level. It's not this astronomical thing we have today. For example, the liberals right now are saying, crime has eased off in New York, and that's true. There were 6 times as much crime in New York a few years ago as there was in 1960. Now it's down to 5 times as much crime as there was in 1960. Now that's not what I regard as a great trend, unless it continues a lot more sharply.
The liberals think we need more education and we need to help people in the inner city more to cut down crime there.
Comrade Dawood, yes, he is, bro.
Conservatives would say we have to be tougher on crime. Is either of them correct?
No. You see, the conservative view is really not a solution. It's a trade-off. It says, yes, it would be wonderful if we could do all these things to prevent crime in the first place. We just don't happen to be that smart. And so what we do, we put people behind bars who commit violent crimes. Now, a few years ago in East Palo Alto, which is not far from Stanford University, a minority community, low income, they had the doubtful distinction of being the murder capital of the United States in proportion to their population. The next year, murder and all sorts of other violent crimes dropped tremendous amount, 30, 40, 50% in 1 year. Now, that wasn't because they discovered the root causes of crime or because they worked out everything that was wonderful. They launched a campaign that put a lot of the bad guys behind bars. And when they were behind bars, they didn't commit as many crimes.
Makes sense to me.
And the thing that
makes perfect sense.
Even in a high crime area, the great majority of the people are not criminals. And so if you can just put your hands on those people who are raising all the hell in the community and take them out of circulation, the crime rate drops.
People say there's undue...
crazy idea, right? Put the guys that are doing the crimes behind bars and they won't do it anymore. Right now we have this crazy thing of liberals are trying to get people out of jail as fast as possible or put them in, or not even put them in jail. California, we just had, all those crazy laws that you could go and steal from a store and not even get caught by the police. You're not even a criminal anymore. So it was just some crazy stuff going on. But what he says is true. A very small portion of the population is creating all the trouble. And if we actually just put them in jail, we'd get rid of these problems or reduce them dramatically, of course.
Emphasis on African Americans for committing crimes. Is that true? Ed Cox wrote in a column here that the population is 25% African American in New York. 62% of the crimes are committed by African Americans. Is that and he says
I haven't checked these figures, but throughout the world, this is not unusual. Throughout the world, people are disproportionately represented in all kinds of different things. And it's true, obviously, in basketball. It's true in all kinds of other things. The main thing is not to keep people out of jail because they're one race or another, because when you do that, the people who are going to suffer the most will be the black community.
Where are you on affirmative action?
That's why he says the people that will suffer the most are the black community. You know why? Because majority of people that commit murders or commit homicides are black people. And the majority of the people that they are committing those homicides on are their fellow black people. And so if you wanted to keep black people out of jail, the people committing these homicides or being convicted of the homicides, if you keep them out of jail, the people that suffer the most are other black people, literally.
Against.
Why?
Well, you can only do one of two things. You can either just judge people individually, or you can judge them by groups. This whole notion that you're going to come out with a compromise, I would defy anybody to come out with a compromise on that. You're going to do one of those two things. Now, you can pretend to be doing other things, but that's all you're going to do. Those are the only two choices you really have in the end. Again, the people who are the anointed think of this as a symbolic issue, and they want to be on the side of the angels. They don't ask, what are the consequences? Now, I've studied affirmative action programs around the world. One of the consequences is that those people who are more fortunate in the group that has the preferences, those people take the lion's share of the preferences. Very often, those at the other end of the scale, the poorer people, actually fall further behind. That's true of Blackshear. It's true of Malay.
Dream in the chat says Trump is the worst ever. Tell us why. Why do you think that?
In Malaysia. It's true of various groups in India. And there are reasons for that. You can say you must have certain proportions. Nothing is easier than for an employer who might otherwise locate, let's say, in the Bronx, to locate out in Provo, Utah, where he will be not near any black people, and therefore he will never have lawsuits, and the jobs will be in Provo, and people will wonder, why don't people, here have more jobs? It never seems to occur to liberals that other people are not blocks of wood, that when you set up certain incentives, they will react to them in certain ways. And when they do that, the result may be the opposite of what you set out to do.
How do the anointed refer to people they don't agree with?
What did you just say there?
Ways. Well, not blocks of wood. That when you set up certain incentives, they will react to them in certain ways. And when they do that, the result may be the opposite of what you set out to do.
How do the anointed refer to people they don't agree with?
All sorts of ways. But I think the main thing is they believe that you're not merely in error, but in sin. In other words, they can't believe that you're just mistaken. You must have sold out. You must have.
The person that was in the chat, Dream Big Dreams, that said that Trump is the worst ever. Since you made such a statement, you should be able to explain to us what specifically you're talking about. So explain yourself more specifically, because you keep just saying some general things about
must be something warped about you.
You guys are for the rich. You guys only care about the rich guys. Answer that.
Oh, this is huge. Listen to this.
How do you respond? Liberal says.
Listen to this, dude.
You must be something warped about you.
Watch this.
You guys are for the rich. You guys only care about the rich guys. Answer that. How do you respond? Liberal says conservatives only care about rich people.
Well, one of the things I go into in the book is that the whole notion of rich is ridiculous. That most Americans don't stay in the same income bracket, even for 1 decade. So the same guy who is, quote, rich now was 20 years ago probably in the bottom 20%. I mean, I was on a cruise recently, luxury cruise, and the guy said, if someone had told me when I was growing up that I would end up on a cruise like this, I would have said, get real, man. That very few people are in that same income bracket the whole time.
Right.
The genuinely rich and the genuinely poor, I would estimate to be no more than 3% of the American people.
Really?
Put together.
Really?
Yes.
Genuinely poor. Now, I'm seeing numbers like when they were talking about health care, they said, what?
Guys, we got Truth on the caller line. Let's go to Truth on our caller line. All right, here we go. Yo, yo, yo. Are you there? Oh, whoops. Hello? Where am I, bro?
1 second. One second. Yes.
There you are, bro. I can hear you. Yes. How's it going, man?
Oh, I figured I'd hop in before I got to where I was going and see if you noticed.
I did.
I saw
Go ahead.
Very good about lawmakers and their salaries.
Yeah.
Why are their salaries not representative of the people they represent? Why is there no incentive for them to succeed and bring success and some kind of monetary value to their constituency?
Because are you going to tell me?
Well, I just think it's ridiculous that the average salary for senators, not the one, speaker, minority leader, majority leader, they get higher salaries. Theirs is 190 something a year, but the average run-of-the-mill senator makes 174,000 a year. Their Senate is only in session maybe 160 days out of the year. So that's the equivalent of a normal person making 350,000 a year.
Yeah. Based on how much time they put in, right?
Why isn't obviously there's some areas that are a lot more well off, and you can cap the salary at 174,000, say. But for most senators, why don't you make it to where their salary is the average of the group of people that they represent? So they get paid more if their people make more.
That would be huge. But I'm trying to think of what would be the counter argument to play devil's advocate. So you're saying make their income dependent on the income of their constituents.
Yeah. So say their constituents have an average annual income of $47,000 a year. That means that senator's only making $47,000 a year. Say in another district, the average is 118,000 a year. They're making 118,000 a year there. So if the one in the area making 47,000 a year brings that income and the quality of life up for their constituency, they're now going to be making more money. It incentivizes them to actually succeed. Oh, this BMW just about crashed. He was drifting a corner and started fishtailing.
I'm trying to think in what ways that wouldn't make sense. What if there were geographical areas that were like I guess they would have to chop up their areas in the different ways, because you'll have some areas that are just full of big homes, expensive homes, and some that are just lots of apartments. And so
yeah, that's why I said you maybe cap it at 174,000, which is what they make now. So the max is 174,000.
Yeah, maybe cap it.
Yeah, and then for the other people, it's your average, or maybe 10% above the average.
I'm trying to bring Thomas Sowell into this. I'm trying to figure out how I can bring him and his ideology into this.
I've thought of it a good bit, and I can't find any negatives to it myself. So if you can, I'd be happy.
Household income and crime, I think I think it would make more sense to. Well, I guess lower crime would lead to higher income. In a sense, possibly.
Wait, you're saying maybe are you saying like based off crime rate, maybe have like a bonus structure?
No, I think a percentage is based off of the crime percentage, right? So it's a percentage structure, not a straight dollar amount. Or maybe there is a straight dollar amount, but that only accounts for a percentage of their income. And then the other percentage of their income is based off of the crime rate.
Most people in their jobs get a bonus every year. So say this district sees an 8% decrease in crime over a year. Does that mean they get an 8% bonus?
I wouldn't do a yearly bonus. I would make it part of their a percentage of their monthly income.
But monthly crime rates are going to fluctuate based off time of year. It's hard to tell.
Right. But they can have high. But they can have high crime for 8 months out of the year and then drop it in the last 4 months and affect their bonus, right?
That's true. Maybe like semi-annual, where over the course of, because over the halfway through their time.
Maybe
in the Senate,
quarterly or semi-annual, but I still think I would make it monthly so that they have incentive every month to keep it down, every day to keep it down.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just spitballing with you. What else would go into that? So you're talking about making their income based off of their income. So you want to help bring people's income up.
Yeah.
Can that be gamed?
Because right now there's no incentive for our lawmakers to do anything that benefits us.
Okay, so I guess if people's income goes up, that means that lawmakers would be working on those things that help the income go up, which would go back to helping families have a nuclear family, having both parents in the home, right?
Which that generally leads to a higher household income. So like all of pretty much good morality, good choices, low crime, pushing those things would be incentivized for our lawmakers instead of the opposite.
Would increase the income and would increase. Yeah. The only thing that I can think of that was not it wouldn't be a big argument against it. It'd just be like, there's going to be some places that don't have good income. And so you'd be taking, as a lawmaker, as a political leader, you'd be taking a hit to your own income going into a poor area and trying to make it better. But there's lots of situations where people are more than happy to do that. I did that in many of my sales positions that I've had throughout my life. When I would do sales for a company and they had, let's say, I would choose territories, for example, that had the biggest potential for growth, which meant that they had the lowest output in the beginning when I got into there. So it would make, so my bonuses were lower, or my paychecks were the lowest in anyone in my in my department. But then after I did what I did, I would become among the highest. So I think that would be the only thing. But then there will be lots of people that want to do that and want to challenge themselves to fix a lower income location.
I think it would be hard to get anyone in Congress to vote to lower their own pay, but I think it could be a big fixer for just country and politics in this country in general.
Well, if you wanted to implement something like that, I would say that right up front, you would have basically, there would be places that would be making a lot more money than other places, right? So and of course there will be people fighting for the highest earning places or those districts. But
do that, like say you make it so the person has to have lived in that district for 5 years or 10 years.
Well, I have an even better idea. What if you gave them some type of a runway so that they have this much, their income will be comparable to the other districts for this many years, but after a certain amount of years, then it's going to go and become the income of their constituents. Or
kind of
some
allow
type of
people to be grandfathered into their current pay, and they don't see the decrease until years down the road.
There you go. Exactly.
I feel like that could be successful.
I think that's an interesting thing to work on, bro. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. You're breaking up on me.
I just got to the reptile store, so I got to go buy bugs.
Nice. Bro, you buying food for your reptiles?
Yeah, I got to go get probably 400 crickets and probably 50 or 60 cockroaches, and probably a couple mice and rats.
Holy cow, bro. Well, that's the beauty of me having my fish tanks like this one back here.
Yeah, you hit 8K, you got to put Shuby on, have him doing tricks.
I do, bro. I got to make him do some somersaults or something in there. I got to get him to do like some handstand push-ups or some shit, bro. Something crazy. But right on, man. Good luck with the reptiles, and thanks for calling in, man. That was a good one. I like that. That's an interesting thing to work on.
Yeah. Well, good luck with the rest of the stream, and have a great day.
Appreciate you, bro. Have a good one. See you, dude. Okay, bye.
See you.
Guys, that was interesting. Making lawmakers, political leaders, income based off of their voters' income. That's pretty interesting. Wow. Very interesting.
30 million
truth, bro.
people couldn't afford it or something?
Several million of those were making more than $50,000 a year. So it's not, see, this is one of the things the Anointed do. They never believe that people make choices. There are people who have the money, they prefer to put that money into a BMW rather than
a lot of young people didn't want health care. They were betting on their health.
Absolutely. And then this allows them to buy more stuff they want to buy. So it's not a question that they couldn't afford it. It's a question they don't choose to spend the money.
What about mean-spirited conservatives?
Dream, you're not thinking big picture. If you want people to make more money, of course, education would be part of that. If you increase people's education, you improve people's family lives, and having a father and mother both in the home, incentivizing them to do that as opposed to the opposite. All those things would help income.
Are mean-spirited. They're bigots. They don't like people.
Well, one of the
He has a wonderful voice, and by the way, they don't even have good microphones. Imagine him on one of these Shure SM7B microphones. His voice would be even better.
I tell people say, you're a very tough person. I'm not tough. Life is tough. I'm merely trying to acquaint you with those facts.
Back in the 60s, Lyndon Johnson announced a war on poverty. Am I wrong? But there are more poor people. I mean, in other words,
today than there were then. Yes.
Yeah, they're.
All right, guys, we hit that point. It is 12:07. in Southern California, and it's time for me to go to the gym, get my workout, do some reading, some journaling, and some other things. We got sauna, steam room, swimming, all those. Of course, I got to work on my businesses and do some admin stuff that I it's a Monday admin stuff I got to do, among other things. But thank you guys so much for coming. We had a good, no, I don't skip leg day, bro. You know me, bro. I don't skip leg day. Yep. You got to have the protein. And Kev Doc says reading is beta. Actually, I'm reading Thomas Sowell right now, so it's super exciting. But love you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing. And I'll be back on later today. By the way, what do you guys think about the new setup that I have, where I do this wide area here, as opposed to having me off to the side, or to this side right here, and having the chat here? You guys like it better having this area like that? Ange, what's up, Ange? Ange likes it. Right on. All right, so I'll do more of this. Random says, I liked having the chat. John P says, this is better. Aaron says, this is good. Okay. State Line says, looks better, but it's hard to rewatch because chat is missing. Yeah, it does take chat out. So when you rewatch, you have to turn chat on and watch the live rechat. It does show live rechat, but you have to go and find the little button and click live rechat. Anyway, I'm going to start it eventually. Once we get this channel up to 10K, 50K, 100K subscribers, and we're moving, I'm going to go do the wide screen. So we'll have more real estate to play with, videos and all that kind of stuff. But right on. It was good to have everybody, even those we don't agree with. So of course you got DS, you got Dream Big. Wayne wasn't in this one, but it's good to have you guys. I love to have people we don't agree with as well. Again, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll catch you guys on the next stream. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.